Hello there, it's me, Marco. I'm excited to go over something kind of fun today with you guys. I wanted, now that it's been over a week since the Mounts of Mayhem update has dropped, to go through every single feature that was added to the game and put it into a tier list. Give you my thoughts about how good or bad or meh everything is. And you can feel free to agree, disagree with me in the comments below, but I'm going to give you my thoughts, and we'll go from there. Just a little bit of how I grade things. When I'm looking at these things, I'm going to be looking at how it affects gameplay, the quality of life, how cool I think it is, and how it interacts with the existing features to come up with a grade. If something's S, I think it's like revolutionary. Changes pretty much every playthrough, extremely relevant for most play styles. If it's an A, that means it's awesome content. Might have some niche applications, times where you're like, yeah, I'm not going to use that necessarily every time, but it's really cool when I do use it. B tier is a good upgrade to a game feature or a really cool new thing that's been added. It might have more limited applications and or just not have a ton of applicability in every playthrough. C is for the forgettables, the things that are like, oh yeah, that's a thing in that update, and then you kind of forget that it's even in the game. Definitely one of those features that just comes and goes, and you move on with life. And then something that's D is actually negative, like it takes away from the gameplay, or it makes things just more annoying in the game. Maybe it ruins an existing feature or just changes things in a way that makes the game less fun to play. So I've put these in just kind of a random order. They popped up. I'll explain what they are, and then I'll give you my thoughts on what each of them should be ranked at. We'll start off with the piglin here. Piglins are not new, but what is new is that piglins will now take the golden spear and the nautilus armor for trades. This to me makes a ton of sense. It's consistent with their gold trading habits. Its utility is pretty limited. I mean, you're not going to do a ton of trading of nautilus shells for the the piglins, I imagine, or maybe gold tip spears. I don't know. I don't see that as being like a huge deal. But hey, I mean, if you think of some application of that I'm not aware of, I'm all ears. For me, this is a C. This is like, yeah, it makes sense. Am I sad about it? No. I don't think it changes much with anything I'm going to be doing gameplay-wise, but it also doesn't make anything worse. So yeah, for me, it's just kind of middle of the road. Next up, we got the horse. Now, this represents that horses, donkeys, mules, zombie horses, and camels can now swim in the water. They do not sink in the water anymore. I am so ecstatic about this change. I have hated trying to cross rivers with a horse. It's just such a tedious thing when they're sitting there sinking. And you're like trying to jump as far as you can into the water, and then you have a lead and you're pulling them across, and it's just it's so annoying. So this is, to me, an S tier thing. I just hated how it was before. So by virtue of how convenient that makes things, I'm putting it straight up to S. That's a big deal to me. Next up, we have the regular Nautilus. So this is a great addition to the game. I really love this passive mob. I think it's so cool that it has the baby as well. Any mob that has a baby, it always is a little higher stock in my book. I love that it has the armor, that it's a mount. You can ride it around in the ocean. Those are all awesome things that really count for it. And its effect, the Nautilus breathing, being able to water breathe without needing a potion or a conduit, that's really nice. That's a very low-tech way to get into the deeper water. As far as, I guess it's not really a critique, but I guess my thought is, I don't know its full use case yet. As far as crossing the ocean, I don't think you're really going to want to strap yourself onto a Nautilus. If you're trying to travel just for time's sake, I think you're going to go in a boat, because you can carry another player with you, or a chest that extends your inventory. So for like transiting across oceans and large bodies of water, I think the boat is the winner. As far as like if you're building a base underwater and you're going to be in a fixed location a long time, conduit wins that in my book. But for most other water applications, like exploring structures like ocean monuments and the sunken cities and even shipwrecks, I think they'd be very useful. And one other application I thought of for them is ocean mining. The one thing we don't really think about is that you can go down to diamond level. Sometimes these caves will intersect with the ocean floor, and you have these really deep areas that are all flooded. And it's kind of a pain in the neck to go down there unless you have a water breathing potion. But if you take a Nautilus with you, man, you can get down there, and the diamond veins actually are much more likely to appear when they border water than air. Just in case you didn't know that, when caves generate, if there's air touching them, they're less likely to generate a diamond vein. But if it's not, if it considers that covered, then it's more likely to generate diamonds. So it might be a cool application for them. I'll have to try that out. I'd be very curious to see if that's a benefit. For me, the only thing that's a drawback to the Nautilus is just that if you want to live on the land and you're not near an ocean, it's just not going to have that much utility to you. But certainly if you're doing anything in water, I think it's definitely a good one. So just because of that one caveat, I'm going to put it as an A, but I really do love the Nautilus. I think it's an awesome addition to the game. Next up, we have the Parched. The Parched is a cool feature. I love the cosmetic, the kind of mummified look to the skeletons. It gives a nice ambiance to the desert, more in character. I do like that angle. I will say I'm a little less enthusiastic about them in that I don't feel like there's a reason for me to look for these guys. I wish they had a unique drop, or I don't know, just something that make me seek them out. For now, they're just kind of a skeleton variant, a reskin of like a bogged or a stray. They're just not that exciting to me. I think they're almost a little bit forgettable. That's just my take. But I'm not sad about them. They're just kind of a C tier category for me. Next up, we got the Zombie Nautilus. I've already talked a lot about the Nautilus, how much I like it. The zombie variant's pretty cool. I do like that you can find these in-game, and that they do have slightly different mechanics than the regular Nautilus. It's not just a reskin of it, and that it doesn't drown anymore, or suffocate, I guess, on land, but it burns instead. So it like trades one problem for another, but you can completely mitigate that by having the armor on them. So I think that's pretty cool. I do like that it can spawn with a trident wielding drowned, even though that's kind of terrifying. They are pretty rare though. So my understanding is that half the time that a trident wielding drowned appears, it will appear riding a Nautilus, a zombified Nautilus rather. So they might be a little tricky to track down, but I think they're cool. I do like that they have the coral variant as well. Again, if you're not doing much in oceans though, I don't know that you're going to interact with these guys. I do think it's more interesting than the Parched though. For me, this is better. I do think this is a B tier. Awesome. Yeah, and along the zombie theme, we're going to go to the zombie horse next. And guys, I have to tell you, this, you may not know this, but the zombified horse has been in the game's code since 2013. Almost 13 years this has sat in the code unused in the base game. That's incredible. Just think about where you were at 13 years ago. Personally, in the last 13 years, I graduated with 2 different degrees from college. I got into my career. I'm 7.5 years into my career, and I've had 5 kids since this feature was added to Minecraft. Like, putting that in perspective, absolutely mind-blowing to me. Anyways, I'm super grateful that it finally made its way into the base game. I just feel like the zombie horse needed its chance to shine. That being said, how much does it add to the game? Not a ton. The zombified horse does have just slightly different characteristics than the normal horse. Again, it can't be bred, and then it does prefer mushrooms, I believe, as a food source. We can kind of bait it with that. That's interesting. But at the end of the day, it is going to be just kind of a niche thing where you're kind of showing off, like, look what I got. Check this out. Not so high on the utilities, because I believe that the zombie horse Also has a slightly lower stat pool that it can pull from compared to a normal horse. Again, you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that. But the other thing about it is that it's just hard to find. Like when I was looking for this, if you've seen my easy guide to Mounts of Mayhem content, I went looking for this and it was hard to get. I had to seriously look around and create it for like a half hour just to get this thing to spawn. So that makes it just a little more niche and a little less useful to play through. I think it's cool. I'd love to run into these guys a little more often, but as it stands right now, I'm going to give it a B, and I think this is a generous B. I'm giving it the B instead of a C because I've wanted them to put it into the game for so long, just knowing it was in the code doing nothing. So anyways, that's my take on the zombie horse. Next up, we got netherite horse armor, and I mean, this just looks awesome. That's the first thing that comes to mind. It feels like you're equipping your horse for like Lord of the Rings type battle, which I am all about. I think that's so sick. As far as its actual in-game use, kind of debatable. I don't do a lot of combat on horseback, but I do want to protect my horses. I certainly don't want my pets to die in the middle of combat, so I do like that. It is a bit expensive, having the upgrade template and the netherite bar. That's pricey for horse armor. There's a lot of other things I'd use netherite bar for before that, but I mean, if you've got excess, why not, right? But the look is super cool, and if you're big into horseback riding, I mean, that's a great feature. So for me, because it is a little more niche, a little more expensive, I'm going to throw it into B tier, but I do like it. I like it a lot. Next up, we got the spear. Oh, I love the spear. Having a new weapon in the game is always a huge deal. It's not something that happens very often. And this one's unique. Like when we had the mace added, it's a little bit of a chore to get maces sometimes. Not the spear. The spear is one of the very easiest things in the game to get. And the fact that you can get it in every single material. And this is actually something completely mind-blowing about it. The wooden spear sometimes is better than the netherite spear, in that the lower the tier of material, the faster they attack. So sometimes that's actually more useful. So it's not just like a straight up, a better material is always a better choice. So it adds some variety and some really fascinating gameplay. I still have questions about how the PvP meta will change with the spear. That's a little bit open-ended in my opinion. Could be a positive, it could be mixed, or it could be even a little bit negative. I don't do a lot of PvP myself, so that one's a little less known to me, but I think for survival gameplay, it's excellent. I really love it. I love the variety it adds to the game. I think it's a great addition. For me, that's an S tier. Next up, our camel husk. It's another one that it's a reskin of a camel. Well, no, it's a little more complicated than that. It can spawn, and it's, when it's dark in the desert and it's a thunderstorm. That's a bit of a niche time. I maybe you gathered from my time with the parched, but I don't spend tons of time in the desert. For me, I'm sand. I'm hunting for sand. That's why I'm in the desert. I'm just getting out a diamond shovel. I'm going to town. I'm getting a shulker box full of sand, and I'm out. Like, I'm not a big desert guy, so my chances of running into this are pretty limited. I do think it's cool, though. I wouldn't mind running into it and having some combat with them. And it'd be a fun prize to take from the battle. I just wish there were a reason to seek it out. Again, I come back to that same kind of theme for some of these guys, that it'd be nice to fight them on purpose. Like if they had a unique drop, I don't know, just something that was a little more exciting than rotten flesh, I would be there for that. As far as like their actual camel abilities as a mount, they're just camels. Like they don't have anything unique about them other than they're undead and they can't breed. I don't know. So for me, they are a C tier, unfortunately. Next up, last but not least, is the lunge enchantment. And lunge is an enchantment for the spear, exclusively for the spear. It is very cool in that it uses your saturation, your hunger, to power up and launch you forward. And the higher the enchantment level, the more food you're spending over your saturation. That's super unique. I love that. However, It only goes for the spear, and my concern about this is that it clogs up. If you're trying to enchant a book and you're looking for a specific enchantment, it just makes it that much less likely that you're going to get like Unbreaking 3 or Fortune 3 or Looting 3, something that you really want. You're going to keep on getting the lunge when you're like, I already have a spear or 2 or 3 and I got the enchantments I need. It just doesn't have as much utility in my eyes. So for me, this is a C tier. So yeah, this is how I would rank them. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are about it as well. Go ahead, leave us a comment. Tell me if I'm wrong in your opinion. And I'd love to hear where you think I got it right too. We'd love to have you like and subscribe. And we're excited to release a lot more content coming your way soon. So until next time, stay jolly.